Tribe podcast on Ozpod Syndicate.
I'm awesome. Thank you. It's always very hard to listen to your own bio back to you, but thank you. That's lovely. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. We know that you've been creating a very successful Facebook community group to help small business. Can you take us back? How did you get to where you are now?
So I actually started my career in law. So I, out of uni, started in law, and I actually niched down into property law, so conveyancing. And that was kind of what I specialised in. I live on a farm in rural New South Wales. So where I live, there is no court system. That's about an hour away. So I had a choice of family law or property law. So I chose property law. So I did that for probably, must have been 17 years or so that I did that. And my best friend and I were sort of having a couple of bottles of wine one night, and we decided that we didn't want to do our corporate jobs anymore. We wanted to do something different. So we threw in our corporate job and we bought a retail business. We bought a rundown retail business. We had no real retail experience except for perhaps our after school jobs when we were at school. And that's pretty much where I found my passion for marketing and social media. We bought a business to be our own bosses. We soon learned that small business is tough. Small business is really hard, and it's not necessarily something you just get to play with if you want to be successful. So yeah, that was kind of where my love for social media and marketing came from. When I was in retail, when I started in retail, Facebook didn't have all the algorithm problems that it seems to have now. I don't even know if Instagram existed. So the landscape, has definitely changed a lot. And I've just loved continually to learn, what's next and what's happening in the world and what's working and what's not. And so when we sold that shop, which is probably about 4-5 years ago now, I started doing this. So I created a company, Social Media and Marketing Australia, and I've started teaching small business owners how to market themselves. I don't do people's social media for them. I teach them about social media and about marketing. I'm pretty passionate about email marketing as well as social media marketing, but my goal with this business is just to make people have marketing a priority, because if you want more people to buy from you, then more people need to know who you are as such. And I guess as far as my, buy from a bush business goes and spend with us, that's kind of all happened a little bit organically. I call that my side hustle. And it really started with I live on a farm, so farm in New South Wales. We've had horrific droughts here, and because I teach social media and marketing, I do a lot of traveling. And this particular week, I was traveling around New South Wales, and it was the end of October, and everyone was really sad. No one was looking forward to Christmas, because when you live in a small country town, if farmers don't have money, then the towns really struggle to have money. And everyone was just really sad. They knew Christmas wasn't going to be a strong economic retail time. And I guess I just thought, well, if I started a Facebook group and invited all those people and then invited all my friends and they invited their friends, then maybe they could get more than the people who walk through their doors. And that was kind of the initial thought of it, was just Instagram, buy from the bush hashtag was happening on Instagram, but a lot of small businesses in country towns didn't get Instagram. They didn't get how hashtags worked. So, but they kind of all got Facebook. So my podcast is called Small Business Made Simple, and I live that philosophy. I'm always thinking, how can I make it simpler for people? And so Facebook groups seem like the simplest option. I didn't know what I was creating though, Miko, I have to say. I thought I was just creating something small to help people for that one Christmas. I had no idea that I would end up, 18 months later and sort of like a unelected mayor of an online city.
Do you have any inspiration when you're creating this community group or influence?
I think my inspiration was just to try and help people, and trying to help people in the simplest way I could. Like I said, Buy from the Bush was hashtagging on Instagram, but people didn't get how that worked, whereas most people got how Facebook worked. Most people, sort of knew how to do a Facebook group. And I guess I just got, thinking, well, if that's the simplest option, then let's make it simple. So my inspiration was kind of trying to help people in the most simplistic way that I could for free, because Facebook groups are free, and therefore, trading through them is quite free as well. And then I guess I was just inspired by the stories that I heard, and how this group, this seemingly free Facebook group, was really making a difference to people's lives and livelihoods. Little did I know when I started it for drought ravaged towns that bushfires were on the way. And then we had a pandemic, or we still are having a pandemic. And then for rural New South Wales, we're also having a mouse plague on top of that. So, these rural communities just seem to keep getting hit with the next things. So if I can make someone's life a little bit easier, or a little bit simpler, or a little bit happier, then that's kind of the goal of the group.
Thank you for that. I'm sure your success in your business is not come easily. So what has been the most, say, challenging things about starting your business?
Yeah, probably two things have probably been the most challenging. I think I don't know if it's a woman thing or whether it's an entrepreneur thing, but that self-doubt. I don't really know everything. Should I really be telling people what I do know? Like, I'm not really an expert. That whole self-doubt that comes in, and that was quite prevalent at the start. I really didn't know. I'd been in a partnership with another marketer for a couple of years through Melbourne. Like, I worked really through Melbourne, but that wasn't kind of working out because I was away from home so much. So starting it by myself was a little bit scary. And also I'd say a little bit of isolation is hard as well. I think, I do live in a rural community. There isn't many people that, in fact, I don't know anybody. I shouldn't say that. I don't think I know anybody who lives in my rural community who has a podcast, who does online webinars and that sort of thing. Like, I've got plenty of friends who do outside my, little community, but I'm a little bit different. So it was hard to find people to bounce ideas off, or to get direction from. So I'd say probably self-doubt and a little bit of self-isolation, or just isolation, was probably some of the hardest things to overcome. And I think community is the one way out of both of those, is creating or surrounding yourself with, people who will push you and challenge you, but also people who will celebrate with you. Because I think as small business owners, we don't really celebrate the small things enough, and we definitely should.
I know a lot of entrepreneurs, even they know they have knowledge on their specialists or being on their category. Sometimes they also kick their impostor syndrome. In your case, as a social media marketer, have you experienced impostor syndrome, and how you overcome this?
The answer is 100% yes. And I'm not quite sure I've overcome it, Miko. I think, there are days when I still feel like I'm an imposter, and I still have that imposter syndrome happening. They are getting fewer and further between, which I guess means that, I'm honing my skills, and I'm, shutting down that self-doubt. But I think with imposter syndrome, I really do think that a lot of entrepreneurs have that. But I think it's also because we are forward thinkers. I think anyone who is a successful entrepreneur is thinking outside the box, who is thinking differently to other people, or willing to, do what other people aren't willing to do. That's the glory of being an entrepreneur. And to be totally honest, I don't really like the idea of being an entrepreneur, but it's what I am, and it's what's working for me. And I think entrepreneurship and imposter syndrome, they almost go hand in hand for a little while, because we are the people doing things a little bit differently. So yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm over it yet. I don't know if I'll ever get over it, Miko, but we'll see.
So you see, you're saying you have to be thinking out of the box. Why pushing yourself out of your comfort zone will only lead you to your greatness?
I think, that we've all seen that little meme that comes over social media that says, nothing, staying in your comfort zone, nothing grand comes out of staying in your comfort zone. And it's just so true. Like, once you get out of your comfort zone, it doesn't mean that everything's going to work. I do have, a saying, and one of my best friends keeps me on track with it. We never fail. We just either win or we learn. Like as entrepreneurs, I think no matter what we do, we're looking for the lesson. We're looking for the lesson in something like, yeah, okay, my podcast mightn't have worked, or yeah, okay, my mastermind program that I tried to do mightn't have worked, or that product mightn't have sold, but what's the lesson? And normally as entrepreneurs, we are smart enough and tough enough on ourselves to go, yeah, okay, so it didn't work because I really didn't have my heart in it, or I didn't really market it as much as I should have, or I didn't talk about it as much leading up to the launch that I should have. Like we look for the lessons, and I think that's what makes us different, and that's what helps us to keep looking outside the box.
What advice would you give to other women's, and especially mom, just like you, thinking about starting a business? Sometimes mom is always, if you say mom, some of them are always at home taking care of kids, but they don't know where to start if they want to get their own business. So what is your advice to them?
My advice to them is probably just start. My mentor always had the line ready, fire, aim. So just get ready, fire, and work it out as you go along. Like that, let's just work out, what needs to happen next as we've gone along. Because I think sometimes we spend too much time gearing up to start a business when at the end of the day, we still don't really know whether there's any buyers out there. Does someone actually want the product or the service that you are going to provide? And B, do they want it from you? So I think sort of doing that research on who your ideal client is and, where do they hang out then? So once you find out who your ideal client is, how do you get that marketing message to them? Is it podcasting? Is it social media? Is it email marketing? Is it paid radio ads? There's so many different ways that you can get to your ideal client. And also looking at your competition a little bit as well. I think doing a competitive analysis is one of the best things you can do, not only when you're starting out in business, but even when you're in business. I'm not about copying what other people are doing, but sometimes just having a little peek over the fence and seeing what's happening over there can really help you in your own business as well. If you're thinking about starting up a candle business, but there's 20 other candle businesses in your suburb, okay, so what's going to be different about yours? How are you going to make your candle business different? I'd say one of the best ways that you can make your candle business different is you, because no one does you like you. So putting yourself front and center as part of that business will definitely help. But, you've got to, if you wanted to do that, you've got to think outside the square. There's a social media and marketing coach for probably every street of every corner in Australia. So how do I, look different? How do I, get seen in such a busy and noisy marketplace? I'm still, doing that every single day, thinking, what can I do different? How can I get more traction? How can I get out there and, and be seen by more people? And it's no different for any other business owners. So my advice would be start. And then my other advice would be do some research, find out who your ideal client is, and really discover what's going to make you different in the marketplace.
So you're saying you have to niche your business to make it successful.
Yeah, niche, or at least stand out from the crowd. It's at least got to be a little bit different. Like, again, if we use candles, for instance, candles all smell beautiful. They're all probably packaged quite beautifully. So what's going to make yours a little bit different? Where are you going to put it to stand out? And again, I would probably, like, I know in your little introduction, we talked a little bit, you introduced a little bit the concept of human to human marketing. That is something I'm really passionate about. And basically it just means showing up in your own business, not hiding behind a logo, not hiding behind the product or service that you sell, but actually being front and center and showing people who you are, what you stand for, and why you are doing what you're doing. And I think if we use candles as an example, that's how you can stand out. You're talking about why you make those candles, why they're different, how they're going to benefit the person who buys them, and your story behind how you got there. How did you get to be a candle making business? I think that all ties into standing out from the crowd. So niche, possibly, but also just, humanizing your brand, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
So you're saying the art of human to human marketing. I'm a little bit interested in on that concept. Is
Yep.
that is this like a personal branding and a business branding, or that's a different scenario?
It's a little bit of a combination of both. So it's personal branding within your business, I guess. It's, if we look at the fundamentals of, who we buy from as humans, as, who you buy from and who I buy from, there's almost an element of, the person who owns the business is the person we like, or, we like the person who's serving us if it's a multinational or something like that. So we have that human connection with somebody or to that business somehow. We do business with people that we feel align with our own business values, people who have the business values of, I don't know, without being controversial, I don't want to use any business values, but, people who, have we just align ourselves with business values that we have. People who don't want to buy products and only want to buy Australian made products will shop with people who make Australian made products over and above people who don't make Australian made products. And they'll often do that with the people that they know who makes the products. So if the person who, makes the knitted shawl or is making the fire pit or something like that, they have that connection with them. And so I think it is very much personal branding, yes, but it's done within your business branding concepts and strategies as such. I just think every business should have a human face. And unless you've got big budgets like the people who have the golden arches, that's the way we can stand out. No one does you like you. So you need to become part and front and center of what your business is and what it stands for.
Thank you so much for that more elaborate explanation about human to human marketing. It's a little bit a different concept, because most of now are, especially the big brand, doesn't have like that human to human connection. So what has been
Which is a really good way of being competitive against multinationals. Small business owners have that advantage of being able to connect with people on a more human level. So it's actually a really good win for small business over multinational. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, that's all right. Yeah, so what has been the best thing about starting your own business, aside from helping the small business to get up and get running on their marketing? Because some small business doesn't know what to do. They have a retail shop, but they don't have it. Some of them doesn't have any website. Some of them doesn't know what is Facebook. So
Yeah. Probably for me, having my own business, one of the best things is that I get to make the rules as I go along. I think that I am almost unemployable now. I don't think I could turn up to an office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I've got a little bit used to making my own hours, and it's not that us entrepreneurs, we don't work hard, but sometimes we might take the afternoon off and then work till 2 o'clock in the morning because that's, what suits us, or that's when we've come up with this most creative idea and things like that. So I've enjoyed my own business for that reasons, for personal reasons, being able to make my own hours and also being able to work with who I want to work with. I do, probably 3 or 4 discovery calls a week with potential clients. And some of them just aren't my people. And at the end of the call, you get that vibe and you kind of like, yep, okay, I don't really think we can work together. Whereas if you're working with someone else, you just get the file, or, especially in law, you get the file, whether you like it or not type of thing. You just need to do the work. So I enjoy working with people who want to work with me and who really want to up their business and are willing to listen, are willing to make changes. And more than anything, marketing's about test and measure. It's not a mathematical science. It doesn't have an answer like mathematics does. It has a, swings and roundabout, what works and what doesn't work. But also realizing in 3 months' time that mightn't work anymore and you need to go back to the drawing board and try a different strategy. And to me, that's what makes marketing just so beautiful. I love the test and measure of marketing.
Thank you so much for that. Before we wrap up our podcast show, can you give us an overview of your podcast and the advice shared during a typical episode of your podcast?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really tough question because I've got 130 episodes. I'm not quite sure any of them have a typical theme. Well, I take that back actually. My theme is simplicity. So my podcast is called Small Business Made Simple, and that is my goal, to make business just a little bit simpler for you, because business is hard. It's not easy, but it should be a little bit simpler. So I'm always wanting to share a tip or a trick on how you can make your business life a little bit simpler. Whether that be, a guest that I might have on that might talk about a new type of strategy for marketing that you mightn't have thought of, but that really might appeal to you, such as, podcast interviews or something like that, or whether it's a step-by-step process of how to how to use Instagram Reels, for instance. Maybe it's a bit of a step by step along there, giving you 3 or 4 action points to try. And then other episodes are just a little bit of I guess marketing counseling almost. Like, we need to make this as a priority, and this is why it needs to be a priority, and this is how it can help your business. So some of my episodes are a little bit of a nudge as such, just to make it a priority and stop making it a sometimes activity, because it doesn't work as a sometimes activity. So yeah, that's kind of, they're between probably 15 minutes and half an hour, depending. My guests tend to be longer episodes than my solo episodes, but yeah, that's about the overview. And you can basically find it wherever you listen to podcasts, in your favorite podcast app, where you might listen to this one.
So, what is your big plan in the future on your business?
Oh, what's my big plan? To be honest with you, for the last 18 months, one of my biggest goals is to do more speaking. I want to do more speaking. I love the one-to-many business model. I like to stand, and teach someone. I love the aha moments that people might have in the crowd. It's like, oh man, that makes so much sense now. But of course, I keep getting interrupted by this pandemic, so that goal just keeps getting pushed. Even though I'm doing lots of webinars, I'd like to eventually get on more stages, to travel and to talk to people. So that's probably one big goal. And I guess my other goal is just to just keep being happy and keep putting my word out there and keep helping small business owners, especially rural small business owners, rural and regional ones. And that's why we have the marketplace, which is kind of like our little Amazon, but only for rural and regional businesses. So sort of helping more small business owners in rural areas get their business on the map in front of more and more people. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like to forward plan anymore past about 12 months, but I'm not sure. One day, certainly getting onto some boards like rural women's boards and things like that to make a difference. I think that's what my life purpose is trying to just make a difference to other people's lives in a good way.
Do you have any final advice or anything else you want to share to our listener and audience, especially women who is thinking of being an entrepreneur, getting into the entrepreneur journey or space?
Yeah, look, I did say before, just start, ready, fire, aim. The world needs more action takers. The world doesn't need more people thinking they are going to do something. But I also think we need to surround ourselves with the right people. There's an old saying, you are the product of the 5 people you hang around the most. And I think it's just so true. And in business, it's even more true. If you can hang around with people who talk business and, know business and perhaps are a little bit further along the business journey, it doesn't matter if they're not in the same industry as you, but just to be able to talk to people, get ideas off people, shoot ideas around, over a cup of tea or a coffee or something like that. I think surrounding yourself with the right people is one way that you will expedite your journey into being a small business owner or a successful small business owner a lot quicker. Like I love my husband to death. We've been married 24 years. But I don't necessarily talk business to him very often because he just doesn't get it. Whereas, my best friends do. So I talk to them about business. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people and, just taking some action, just doing it and see where it goes and look for the lessons.
Where can our listener audience who is watching here on Facebook and YouTube and Vimeo connect with you online?
Yeah. So my website is socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. So you can come over there and see everything there is to see. You can listen to my dulcet tones on the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Otherwise, I'd love to connect with you on Instagram. So I'm at Jenn Donovan _ over there. But just reach out. I'm fairly visible on most platforms, so you'll find me somewhere for sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Jenn Donovan. And thank you for guesting to Tribe Podcast under Oswald Syndicate. Thank you. See you.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by OSPAD Syndicate, powered by Kangaroo Fern Media Lab. Kangaroo Fern is Australia's independent video and podcast management agency with a mission to help individuals and entrepreneurs to start their own podcast.